Hello, this is Wes Bridle, and this is another Kingdom Calling economic update. It's probably been a couple days since you've seen the last one. I just shot it, and one of the facts that was in that video was the fact that lending has gone way down. Actually, M3 money supply is way down. That's a hugely deflationary input into the market, and so there's this raging question: are we going to see deflation or are we going to see inflation? I think there's a good chance we see both. We see kind of a crushing deflation first, and then inflation is going to come after that. The question is, when will these things happen? And I don't know the answer to that. I've given some in previous forecasts. I've given you my guesses, but it's hard to know exactly when these things will happen. All I know is that this pain is going to come quickly. But I want to give you some of the ideas that this is not going to be the normal inflationary thing. Oh, there's too much money and prices go up because there's so much money around. But in fact, because of the way we're running our country and the way others are reacting to that, the dollar could, I believe the dollar will significantly fall in value because it's just not demanded in the world anymore. So we're going to run through a bunch of those facts that have happened just in the last couple of weeks. If you haven't seen the Coming Storm video, I refer to that a lot because that is the full context, an hour and a half on what's really going on, and all these economic updates just show that what I predicted in November, these things are coming to pass. There is still time for you to prepare, but that window is closing, and so I urge you to follow the link next to this video and watch that full hour and a half presentation so you get the full context of what's going on. Life is going to be very different than you've ever seen it before, and so you have a little time to prepare now, and this is just some more confirmation of those things that I said back in November. Foreign demand for treasuries in December fell by the largest amount ever. So foreigners who lend us money so we can continue to have this huge debt and deficit that the U.S. government has, these foreigners actually lent us the least amount. Their demand for our treasuries fell by the largest amount in history. In 2009, foreign holdings of treasuries fell, breaking a 30-year trend. Over the last 30 years, we've transformed by someone who exported a lot to someone who imports a tremendous amount. And so we've had this trending line of always borrowing more and more from other countries. Well, that trend broke over in 2009. Now, is that because we're all of a sudden producing more and our economy is doing so well we just didn't need to borrow as much? Of course, you know the answer to that is no. We actually borrowed far more than ever before. So how is it that foreigners actually reduced the amount that they were lending to us? It shows that there's some funny business going on, and it's a big sign of what's to come. Japan cut its exposure by $11.5 billion. China cut their holdings by $34.2 billion. This is a huge cut. 2 weeks ago, we had a nearly failed Treasury auction. So I'm going to read you some of this. The U.S. government wanted to borrow $16 billion for 30 years. So they do these auctions all the time, and the Fed quite clearly bought 11% of that. So they're very open about the fact that they're printing money in order to buy our own debt. And that's worrisome, first of all. But in the past 4 Treasury auctions, indirect buyers accounted for about 40% of purchases. However, in this auction, indirect buyer purchases sunk to just 29% of the auction securities. In other words, Asians who are making all the stuff that we're using are no longer interested in sending those dollars back in the form of loans to us in long-term loans. And so that's a scary thing, that the amount that they lent to us, the amount that they bought of treasuries, dropped so significantly. And then a quirky number here is that 24% of the auction purchased a record high amount of treasuries. 24% were direct buyers. That's typically mom and pop people going directly to the treasury. This is not it's not the way big governments or big institutions buy. Do you really think 24% of mom and pops, or 24% of the $16 billion, $4 billion, was bought by just little individuals? Or is it possible that the Fed's actually buying more that they're letting on, and they're kind of doing it in the secret way that cannot be tracked? Whatever's happening, we're not being lent nearly enough money by the people we need to be lent money to, and the auction almost failed. There is when Alan Greenspan was getting his start, he created, along with a guy named Guidati, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, the Greenspan-Guidati rule, which says that if countries don't have, this is just a rough example of what the rule says, but if countries don't have enough assets on hand to take care of their short-term deficit needs, that currency is going to fail in a spectacular way. It's been very accurate at predicting when countries' currencies would fail. Well, in 2009 we saw a big warning that we're failing in that. That info came to me from Porter Stansberry, so I appreciate that. The best currency speculator of all time, I'm not a fan of his, but George Soros has been amazing at speculating what's happening with currencies. He actually also recently called gold the greatest bubble ever. But interestingly, he just made his largest purchase, his largest investment into gold. And so he's clearly speculating that all these major fiat currencies are going down and that owning that hard asset is the wisest thing to do. It's really interesting if you watch what's happening with Greece. We did 2 updates ago, we did the Greece update. If you don't know what's going on there, you should find out, because that could very well be coming home soon. But you can see how these things progress, and you can also predict that similar things will be happening here. The Greek people don't like what's going on in their own system, so they removed 8 billion euros from the Greek banks and put it into foreign banks because they feel like that's safer. Well, now the Greek politicians don't like that, and so now they're coming up with new taxes and they're demanding that money come home. They're turning against their own people. And so these are things that always happen. So if you saw the coming storm and you thought, oh, our government's good, this is the good USA, we would never do anything like that. Well, for one, you saw examples of how our government has done these things in the past. And if you look at when countries go down this road, these things always happen. So if you see what's going on in Greece, there's a good chance you're going to see those things here. And oh, by the way, would you like a sign for that? Citibank recently sent all their customers just sort of a warning, just a disclaimer, saying that if they need to, that there will be a 7-day delay for you to get money out of your checking account held with them. Now they said, oh, we're not going to use this, but we just need to. Well, the people that noticed were kind of upset, and they said, well, this is a Federal Reserve FDIC requirement that we have this, but it's this, be warned that that's the road we're going down, that you might not be able to access that cash in the future. They're warning you now. Again, if you're just seeing this for the first time and you haven't seen The Coming Storm, I highly recommend you go watch that. It's an 1.5-hour video to give you full context of what's going on. If you have any questions, please let me know. We'd love to help you out. There are ways to prepare for this right now. Really, everything is going to change so dramatically. There's no way to sort of make it not a very different and frankly painful situation as far as the economy is concerned. But there are ways to prepare, and you can do the best in a painful situation. As we've talked before, there's very beautiful aspects about this as well, but we get into that in The Coming Storm. Thank you for your time, and God bless you.